How did life originate on Earth? The origin of life on Earth is still one of the main mysteries of our planet. At all times, people have tried to imagine where all living things came from. How is it that life is so diverse, but at the same time obeys the same natural laws? At first, this was explained by the beliefs of ancient people and was transmitted in fairy tales, myths, and legends. Later, with the advent and accumulation of scientific knowledge, more substantiated and provable theories of the appearance of the first living organisms began to appear. Today, we will try to get acquainted with the most common theories of the origin of life on Earth and get a little closer to unraveling this mystery. Nowadays, the scientific community has expressed several fairly well-founded versions of the appearance of the first living organisms. Sometimes these versions look quite fantastic, but some of them are confirmed by the data of various experiments. Each version has its supporters and opponents, and none of them can yet be considered the only true one. The main problem of all scientists who studied the issue is that the first organic substances and after them living organisms appeared on our planet too long ago. There is very reliable data about the time of the origin of life, and many of them are based on theoretical research than on facts confirmed by evidence. No scientific evidence is needed except for supporters of the divine origin of life. Most, if not all, religious movements explain the origin of life by the intervention of gods or other higher powers. In Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, animals and plants were created by God at the same time as the creation of Earth itself within 6 days. It is nearly explained the same way of the appearance of all living things in pagan beliefs of different peoples from around the world. Almost always in myths and legends, which undoubtedly include the Old Testament texts, plants and animals are created immediately as we know them. Any religion is more interested in human development since it was created by people to understand their place on the planet. And regardless of whether we are created from clay, whether we are the grandchildren of ancient gods, or descended from a monkey, it happened all at once. There can be no talk of any evolution here. The gods possessed not only magical abilities, but also vast knowledge beyond our comprehension. They were able to make every creature sufficiently perfect and capable of performing the necessary functions without developing from simple to complex under the influence of changing living conditions over millions of years. Any religion is based on the faith of people. Therefore, it simply does not make sense to demand at least some evidence of the divine version of the origin of life. This version can be accepted as official and scientific only when conducting an experiment and when at least some divine entity agrees to participate. But unfortunately, so far, the very existence of a god or gods has not been scientifically confirmed in any way. Therefore, we will leave this variant to the appearance of life on Earth to sincerely believing people. Scientists must always doubt everything, even despite the fact that all modern science appeared thanks to the church. It was the monks who were the first who not only collected and classified knowledge, but also tried to comprehend the causes of everything. Of course, most of the interpretations and evidence obtained by medieval researchers now look untenable. But it was thanks to them that almost all modern scientific trends appeared. In the Middle Ages, the so-called theory of the spontaneous origin of life prevailed among such researchers. Researchers believed that living beings can appear from inorganic matter. For example, flies were thought to emerge from mud or spoiled food, and crocodiles were once submerged tree trunks. Such a view of the problem of the emergence of life at the time was quite justified. Many people have repeatedly observed how larvae or flies or other insects began to crawl out of spoiled pieces of meat. But in the 19th century, Louis Pasteur conducted an experiment that proved the impossibility of spontaneous generation of life from inanimate matter. He placed a broth in a specifically designed flask without the possibility of air or insects. After long-term observations of the solution, it turns out that life itself cannot originate under such conditions. Accordingly, in order for organic substances to appear from inorganic substances, certain conditions must be met. Now, the debate among supporters of different versions of the origin story of life is precisely about these conditions and how to recreate them. Different variations on the theme of bringing life to the surface of the Earth from space are very popular. There is a version that the first organic compounds or even living beings arrived on our planet along with meteorites that bombarded our planet at the dawn of its existence. Some scientists say that in this way, not only water and some minerals, but also microscopic living organisms that could be dormant for a long time came to Earth. Neither cosmic radiation nor a long stay in airless space could destroy them. And only when the temperature conditions, the composition of water and the atmosphere became suitable for their future development, these organisms began their evolutionary path. Such theories are quite valid, but with scientific evidence, their supporters will have to try hard. Of course, it has been proven that some modern microorganisms could survive in the conditions of being in the International Space Station. And it is even possible that colonies of terrestrial bacteria now live in the research probes left on Mars. But it will take a long time for scientists to test these assumptions. Also, in the theory of bringing life to Earth from space, the most important question remains unanswered. Where did life originate from space, and how did it form there? Let's also ignore the version of the biological experiment of alien races. Undoubtedly, any civilization that is technically superior to humanity so much that it is able to move any living organisms to another planet and grow the necessary species from them can be equated in its power with the same deities. Consequently, it will be possible to talk about them in a scientific way only after official science has received confirmation of their existence and the fact that this experiment, which is incomprehensible to us, has been carried out. But the largest group is made up of scientists who believe that life originated on Earth. Numerous experiments confirm the possibility of obtaining organic compounds necessary for its appearance under terrestrial conditions. Back in the early 20th century, Russian scientists Alexander Oparin created a theory about the presence of the so-called primary broth. So, the mixture of inorganic compounds dissolved in the water of the prehistoric ocean. In this broth, the necessary conditions were formed for the production of organic substances. In the 1950s, two scientists, Stanley Miller and Harold Urey, recreated the composition of this broth, and under the influence of powerful electrical discharges that imitate lightning, they were able to obtain amino acids, sugars, and other compounds, which are now a part of wildlife. Their followers in 2015 were able to more accurately recreate the conditions of the Earth at the beginning of the Proterozoic era. As a result, molecules, DNA, and RNA, as well as proteins necessary for the creation of life, were obtained. There is also an opinion that the catalyst for these chemical reactions could not be lightning, but conditions near underwater volcanoes. Underwater life near them is now very diverse, and about 2.5 to 3 billion years ago, the water near erupting volcanoes was saturated with various minerals and had a higher temperature. In addition, the great depth served as protection from solar radiation, which penetrated further due to the absence of a normal atmosphere on the planet. Another interesting theory is that life may have originated deep underground in the layers of clay. Clay could play the role of a kind of matrix in the channels and recesses of which organic substances gradually accumulated, formed during chemical reactions occurring on the surface. Whichever of these ways life originated on our planet, it is worth saying that from the moment the Earth was formed about 4.5 billion years ago until the end of the Proterozoic era about 540 million years ago, life originated and evolved from protobacteria to the appearance of the first jellyfish, mollusks, and unicellular organisms. This transition took an unimaginable amount of time. Perhaps the origin of living organisms occurred more than once or happened according to a similar scenario in several places. But in subsequent periods, evolution began to develop in huge leaps and gave us all the diversity of species, which continues to develop even now, according to the laws laid down at the dawn of the emergence of life. We thank the viewers who watched our video to the end. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to learn more about the development of the evolution of life on our planet and the latest scientific discoveries in the area, then you can subscribe to our channel and be the first to know about the releases of new videos. We also suggest you familiarize yourself with the previous videos on the Age of Dinosaurs channel. Thanks.